The NFL draft is in the books, and you've got your Dynasty rookie drafts upcoming. I'm going to give you my top 50 rookie rankings as they stand today, now that we have all the information we need to make the right decisions. In the first tier, on his own, no surprise, Ashton Jeanty. He still remains there, the 101 in his own tier, top 10 pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, you think about these teams that Pete Carroll has had success with. What have they been built around? The run game and the defense. And they were missing the run game heavily in Las Vegas. Now they add a Ashton Jeanty, a top 10 elite level talent, one of the blue chip players in this class. And it's a very good bet to make when you're thinking of top 10 running backs in the NFL draft. Let's look at all the running backs who went top 10 since the year 2014. You ready for this? Ashton Jeanty, obviously, but then Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley. We're looking at just constant Hall of Famers across the board. Constant guys who are giving you RB 1 point per game seasons, top 3 point per game seasons on a consistent basis. Do not overthink Ashton Jeanty at the 101. He should be a Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson level valued dynasty asset from day one right here, right now. All right, moving into tier 2. Yes, I do have one player on his own in tier 2. That is Omarion Hampton. Went to the perfect landing spot, man. I can't think of a better landing spot for him. When you think about an offense that wants to establish the run game with Harbaugh, with Greg Roman, we know how good J.K. Dobbins was last year. Imagine adding a name like Omarion Hampton to that backfield. Yes, Najee Harris is going to be annoying to start the year, okay? He's going to have a role. But the reality is, look at the money that they paid him. On an average salary, he's getting paid around the same amount of money as, the Austin Ecklers, Zach Moss, Antonio Gibson, Jordan Mason. He's getting paid less than Jaylen Warren, less than Devin Singletary. I mean, it was a very clear indication when they signed him, in my humble opinion, that they were still looking to add to this backfield, and they did that with Omarion Hampton. The hit rates for a round one running back are incredible. You guys know that. 86% hit rate for star status, was the top 24 points per game season. And for our superstar status, top 12 point per game season, still a 78.6% hit rate. And you'll see all the other positions, when we go to superstar status, they take a massive dip in their hit rate percentage, but not the running back position. Still up there at 77%. Betting on a round one running back is a safe bet. It is the best bet you can make in Dynasty football, point blank, period. And we get to the dream landing spot, we're good to go. All right, into tier number 3. All right, this is a huge tier for me. In fact, if you own the 103, my biggest suggestion to you is to trade down from the 103 anywhere from the 104, 105, 106, or the 107. If you can go from the 103 and grab the 107 in the future first, the 106 in the future first, the 106 and the 110 in this year's class, these are the type of deals that I'm actively pursuing in every single league that I'm in. And you can truly make a case for any single one of these players being the 103 in my humble opinion. Starting off with Cam Ward, obviously super flex format. Cam Ward goes number 1 overall. Of course, like the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, Superflex format. We know how impactful quarterbacks are for our dynasty rosters if they hit in Superflex formats. But beyond that, we've got a couple other names like Travis Hunter, T-Mac McMillan, right? Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. I truly believe you can make a case for any single one of these guys as your 103, which means we should be trying to tier down and maximize the value of our pick. Let's talk about Travis Hunter really quickly. Look, I'll be honest with you, I've said this before, but there's not really any soul out there that can tell you exactly how this is going to pan out in Jacksonville. However, I've heard enough personally to comfortably take him as my wide receiver 1A, 1B with T-Mac, okay? Now, firstly, the Jags selected him at the number 2 overall pick. That is the highest a wide receiver has been drafted since Calvin Johnson, and it's the highest a cornerback has been drafted in the common draft era. Also, the trade that the Jags did themselves, it speaks to how important he's going to be. Yes, for their defense, but yes, more importantly, their offense, okay? You don't send, look at what they sent away. You don't send your 2026 first round pick, a second round pick, and a 4th round pick to move up 3 spots just to use the guy as a cornerback. That's just not how this is going to happen. And here's what the coach had to say on Travis Hunter's role right after the draft. Check this out.
We'll have a plan right now of primarily on offense with learning the defensive system and practicing on the defensive side of the ball as well throughout this offseason program. And then as we continue to grow, we have to be fluid throughout this whole whole process.
The reality is, if any player in this game is going to make an impact, a massive impact on both sides of the football, it's going to be Travis Hunter, the guy who averaged 118 offensive snaps per game in college. Compare that to Tet McMillan at 61. This guy was out of this world, unreal. And by the way, he did it in Denver, Colorado, where the elevation is just absolutely ridiculous. The target share on this Jags team, I've heard other people say, like, what about Brian Thomas? Guys, come on. It's going to be Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. Who the hell else are they going to target in that offense? Those guys are going to be funneling the entire target share through those two names. All right, at 3C, just as worthy as the 103 as anyone else, Tet McMillan, or as he wants to be called, T-Mac. He will be the number one alpha from day one in Carolina. And look, if that gives you comfort to take him over Travis Hunter, I don't blame you at all. If you want to make that decision, I mean, he's clearly the alpha. It'll be him. Then to complement him, they'll have Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, and he's also in great company historically amongst the wide receiver position. There have been 15 wide receivers drafted in the top 10 since 2014. Here are their names, okay? Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. That's a great class we had last year. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross, Amari Cooper, Kevin White, Sammy Watkins, and Mike Evans. Now, the three black sheep of that group is obviously Corey Davis, John Ross, and Kevin White. They very clearly did not pan out, but that is a very good group to be amongst. All right, another couple guys that are worthy of the 103, in my opinion, are these running backs. Incredible situation for Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Both Ohio State running backs will eat in their backfields with very little competition. For Travion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson already lost his job to Antonio Gibson last year. So he's got to compete with Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. I mean, come on, he's going to eat. And for fantasy football purposes, in your full PPR formats, Henderson should be an absolute game changer. For Quinshon Judkins, he has to compete with Dylan Sampson, who they drafted in round 4, and Jerome Ford. But with that top 40 overall capital, these two guys should absolutely dominate in their backfields this year. The hit rate for these round 2 running backs are fantastic. 71% star hit rate and superstar hit rates at 41%. All right. So you can see the third best bet you can make there. Don't forget, guys, please, I'm begging you. Yeah, okay, so they didn't go round 1, so they're not Hampton, they're not Genty, but I'm asking you guys to remember how freaking good a early round 2 running back is for Dynasty football. Do you remember the 2022 class? Because I want you to think about this for a second. We basically have the 2023 and the 2022 class combined for the running back position this year, right? In 2023, we had Bijan and Gibbs go round 1. In 2022, we had Breece Hall and Ken Walker go in round 2. We basically have that all in one class this year. All right, Ken Walker, remember, within his first season, he catapulted to the RB1 overall in Dynasty rankings. You could have sold him for 3 first-round picks at that time or kept him and just had a productive running back on the roster. His floor until the Zach Charbonnet pick that next year was RB4 that entire offseason. For Breece Hall, the man was the RB1 in October of the same year he was drafted, and he would have remained there unless if he didn't tear his ACL. Even with the torn ACL, he was the RB2 by February of the next year. These are incredible assets that are difficult to trade for that will help you win championships. All right, let's move on to tier 3B. Love me some Matthew Golden. For the first time since 2002, the Packers have drafted a wide receiver, and they said Matthew Golden was worthy of that. I believe he instantly catapults himself to the number 1 wide receiver on this roster. Outside of Jaden Reed, I think there's a bunch of Jags on this team, meaning just a guy. I don't really worry about Dobbs. I don't worry about Watson, who has an injury, or Dontavion Wicks, or Savion Williams, who's going to be a gadget player. Matthew Golden will be the number 1 on that team from day 1, in my opinion. Let's talk about these tight ends here at 9A and 9B. 2 extremely safe picks. I don't mind which way you want to lean. You can make the case for target share with Tyler Warren, but I would definitely prefer to be a part of that Chicago Bears offense with Ben Johnson and what he's done historically with Sam Laporta. So I do slightly prefer Colson 11, but they're very safe picks. 80% hit rate for star status for our tight ends, and superstar status, which is a top 6 point per game season, we have a 60% hit rate. However, the reason they're a little bit lower for me is because these are really just like 0.5 tight end premium rankings or non-tight end premium. This is not like a full point or 0.75. If you have a bigger premium in your league, you can definitely justify taking these guys earlier than this. However, these tight ends, they don't have the same upside as our tier 3A, unless they become Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers, which is possible, but it's unlikely they become the next Brock Bowers, right? At 11, we have Jackson Dart. All right, round 1 quarterbacks have a 62% hit rate. However, if I get more specific and I look at first-round quarterbacks that were picked from pick 20 onwards, okay, so in the first round, but pick 20 plus, here are the quarterbacks we're talking about. All right, Kenny Pickett, Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, Paxton Lynch, Teddy Bridgewater, and Johnny Manziel. That's just a 33.3% hit rate. So there's definitely more risk to picking a Jackson Dart than there is a Cam Ward, right? Historically, it's not as good of a bucket, but I will say the two guys who did hit late first round, those were two guys who sat for a while in Jordan Love and Lamar Jackson, but they were also part of good organizations. So take that as you wish, but in a Superflex format, he is worth the risk here. At 12, Emeka Egbuka. Look, no doubt this is a crowded wide receiver room, all right? Everybody can agree on that, but got to keep in mind that even though Chris Godwin's under contract for the next 2 seasons, Mike Evans is a free agent after this year. So let me ask you guys, if Mike Evans truly does move on from this team next year, is Emeka Egbuka's value not just going to skyrocket? And are we not playing Dynasty football? Come on, we're not playing redraft right now. This isn't an in-season, we redraft the players. If you want to think long-term, you can see the value in a Bucs team that was loaded at wide receiver and still said, that's the best available player. We're going to build our team around an Emeka Egbuka. So the reality is, this is the same thing that I said last year about Ricky Pearsall. I begged you, I pleaded you, draft 2 players, guys. There are 2 players you have to draft if you're a rebuilder, a one-year punt. Be patient with them. And those 2 players were Michael Penix and Ricky Pearsall. And if you played the long game, if you didn't play it like redraft, if you played it like Dynasty, you would be very, very happy today. I'm asking you to do the same thing here with an Emeka Egbuka. All right, 2 more players in this tier, and there are additions after day 2. That is RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson. I have a preference. It is slightly RJ Harvey, even though I, full transparency, had a higher pre-draft grade on Caleb Johnson. I loved RJ Harvey's film. The one thing that was really holding me back in my evaluation was just thinking about the upside of a player who is 24 years old. I did not expect him to go in round 2. I would have never made that bet in my entire life. I did not anticipate it. But if age does not concern Sean Payton, it's not going to concern me, all right? In a rookie report, my comp for RJ Harvey was Kyron Williams. I also think that the 2024 season of Bucky Irving is another reason why Sean Payton would have been interested in a running back like RJ Harvey. They have a similar skill set. They have a similar build. And, you know, Sean Payton was actually asked about RJ Harvey in a post-draft interview, and he said this. He said, if Genty's unrealistic, we love Genty, but if he's unrealistic, we're going to fall in love with somebody else. And he said, I can remember spending 2 hours specifically talking about RJ Harvey and falling in love. And then he says, okay, let's be quiet. Let's not talk about anyone about RJ Harvey. So this was his guy. If this is truly Sean Payton's Joker, or if this is his Alvin Kamara, right, we would be very wise to take it seriously. Now, as far as Caleb Johnson goes, yes, I preferred him pre-draft, but historical hit rates tell me maybe I should be looking at RJ Harvey more seriously here. If we look at these historical hit rates, from round 2, it's a 70.8% hit rate to a 50% hit rate in round 3. That's a 21% drop off. So look, I wholeheartedly believe that Caleb Johnson's probably going to lead this backfield from week 5 onwards. He's probably going to garner 15 plus touches in an offense led by Arthur Smith. If you have this belief that you want to go towards Caleb Johnson, you liked him as a prospect more like me, and you see more upside long term, you think he has a longer lifespan in Dynasty because of his age, I have no problem with you doing that. You make the call, but we also have to recognize that the hit rates are there for a reason, right? I mean, we shouldn't just ignore them either. If you want an in-depth breakdown of your team with customized trade targets, players to buy, sell, hold, then get your team playbook today by either becoming a yearly Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND or by going directly to the Flock store, regardless of what promo code you're on. And if you want it done live, make sure you get the live tier. Those links are in the pinned comment. All right, let's jump into tier number 5 here, all right? We're getting a lot of new information now. Let's digest it together. The top 4 wide receivers in this tier, I truly think you can make a case for any one of them, but I do have my preferences, all right? Look at the top 5. Let's just talk about it. Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, Jack Besh, Trey Harris. You can truly make a case. I agree. If you're out there and you're like, no, you should have this guy ahead of this guy. You can make a case for any single one of these guys. I truly believe it's one big tier, which is, again, why they're in tier 5, early second round, valuable wide receivers, right? So I obviously prefer Luther Burden here. You guys know on this channel, I'm a big Luther Burden guy. Another player that I'm going to ask you, just like I asked you with Emeka Egbuka, to be patient on. We are playing Dynasty football. We are not playing redraft. And each and every year, we are getting better and better and better about being patient. And these guys are maintaining their value, right? I mean, we learned with JSN. We learned a little bit with Roma Dunze, we thought, right? But we are getting better at being patient. We learned with Michael Penix. We are constantly learning more and more in Dynasty football. Here's the deal. I think a lot of people are going to regret overlooking Luther Burden. I will draft a lot of Luther Burden in my Dynasty rookie drafts. Yes, the room is crowded. Yes, there might be limited targets available. But Ben Johnson made it very clear how he's going to run things in Chicago. Let me go ahead and tell you exactly what Ben Johnson said. Are you guys ready for this? Tuck in. All right, story time. You ready? Okay, so Ben Johnson said, listen, we talked about it the moment the players got back in the building, call it 3 weeks ago now. It was going to be a competitive environment. There is no depth chart right now. If you want to play, you got to earn it. If you want to roll, you got to earn it. They know that. We were very straightforward and honest when they came into the building. I think we all did this weekend was we might have turned up the notch a couple dials for certain people in the building. So that's a good thing. That's a healthy, that's where to run your route when you might not be the number one in the progression. That's exactly the culture that he came from over there in the Detroit Lions building. That is the exact culture that he came from. And we have heard these rumors that they weren't thrilled with DJ Moore's effort when he wasn't involved with the play, both in the blocking game and the routes that he would run if he wasn't involved. Is DJ Moore a player that was signed long-term last offseason? I hear you. He has a long-term contract. He's there until 2028. But if Ben Johnson is telling us there's no depth chart, you got to earn it. And Luther Burden is coming out here in his first interview, and he said he was asked about the no block, no rock mentality. He says, I feel like it describes me best. I feel like that's fair. You know, I mean, you want the ball. If you don't block for your teammate, there should be a consequence. I love to block, so they got no problem with me. I love the mindset of a Luther Burden. This is a round one talent, in my opinion, who fell to round two with a chip on his shoulder. Maybe it's just a my guy thing. You can ignore me if you want to, but I am willing to make that bet on Luther Burden long term. I cannot tell you how it's going to pan out. I can recognize that. It's a fluid situation, but I will be willing to be patient with Luther Burden. All right, Jaden Higgins next joins a wide receiver room that lost Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. You can easily make the case that he's in a better position than Luther Burden for targets in year one. I hear you can make that case. Jack Besh, one of my guys, joins a wide receiver room that has Jacoby Myers at the top of its list. Come on now. Pete Carroll is going to fall in love with Jack Besh. Trey Harris joins a wide receiver room that has major needs outside of Ladd McConkey. Again, you can make an argument that in year one, battling for targets, you can totally make an argument that Higgins, Besh, and Harris are in a better situation. And if you want to make that bet, be my guest, but that's why they're in a tier. I do my tiers as bucketed values. I value all these players in these tiers very similarly. I don't care if you have one ahead of another. All right, two running backs to end this tier. That is Cam Skattebo and Bayshul Tootin. Let me be very clear with Scat and Tootin, okay? You ready for this? The hit rates are truly rough, okay? If you look at a round 4 running back, there's a massive drop off from round 3. We go from 50% hit rate in round 3 to 24% hit rate in round number 4. It's rough, okay? But there is a clear pathway to opportunities for both of these guys. If you look at Cam Skattebo, it's just Tyrone Tracy really in that backfield that you have to compete with. And it's my opinion, not everybody's, it's my opinion that Cam Skattebo is the more eligible player to handle a large amount of carries, specifically carries, not targets, in this offense. And that is very appealing to me. I comped him to David Montgomery coming in. David Montgomery, if you don't remember, was a 3rd round pick. We get 4th round pick for Cam Skattebo, but I am willing to take that shot on a very open backfield in New York, in my opinion. At 20, we've got Bayshul Tootin. Now, here's why Tootin is super interesting to me. I will acknowledge that the Etienne, Bigsby, Tootin backfield, very confusing. I'm with you. If you feel that way, I'm right there with you. However, what I will acknowledge is new coaching staff, all right, brand new people in the building, new GM, and the coach who is now in charge, Liam Cohen. What did he do last year with a mid-round running back? Anyone come to mind? How about Mr. Bucky Irving, the GOAT himself? If Liam Cohen is looking at Bayshul Tootin, bringing him in the building and saying, you know what, that guy, I want to build my offense around him, then I am going to listen. I'm going to listen very carefully and say, what was that, Liam? What do you think about Bayshul Tootin? So we're going to be in on some Bayshul Tootin on this channel. All right, let's get into tier 6A. Kyle Williams, a player I loved out of Washington State. He goes round 3 to the Patriots. The hit rate is not great. It's 21%. Round 3 is really rough for wide receivers, but you can very easily make the case for the pathway Kyle can take to lead this wide receiver room. Great player. I'm excited to see him, and clearly a lot of opportunity ahead of him. As far as Jalen Noel goes, unfortunately, I thought he would be a round 2 pick. He ends up in round 3, but he ends right back with his teammate, Jaden Higgins. I do think Jalen Noel is a more obvious name for them to put in the slot, and I think Jaden Higgins is a more obvious name to kind of play as like that Z, kind of complementing Nico Collins. Now, Nico Collins is obviously going to be the guy in this offense, but I think Jalen Noel can be like a very sneaky Josh Downs level player for this team. Do not sleep on Jalen Noel. I will have a lot of Jalen Noel this year. All right, at 23 overall, we have Jaden Blue. Let's be honest, the hit rate for a round 5 running back, not great. Same as round 4, right? When we talked about Scat and Tootin. It's about 19.4% compared to 24% for those round 4 guys. But the reality is, we're looking at a backfield right now that is bare naked as far as like, yes, Javonte Williams is there, Miles Sanders is there, but there is still plenty of opportunity for anyone to make a name for themselves, and Jaden Blue is a name that could potentially do that. At 24, we have Elijah Arroyo, one of my favorite tight ends coming into this class. In fact, he was my tight end 3 pre-draft. He's still my tight end 3 here. Reports are that they're potentially looking to move on from Noah Fant. If that's true, I think Elijah Arroyo will have a much earlier opportunity than people are projecting. And if you look at the offense right now, they need someone that can stretch the field, that can play a little bit outside, inside out for them. And that's what they're going to get here with Elijah Arroyo. Big body, great route runner. He can stretch the field for you. He can go up the seam. I think he's going to be a great fit for Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. All right, let's get into tier 6B. So similar level of players, but I just value the guys up top a little bit more. We've got some running backs off the board like Jarquez Hunter, Woody Marks, Dylan Sampson, right? Some round 4 running backs. Jarquez Hunter to the Rams, Woody Marks to the Texans, Dylan Sampson to the Browns. As far as Woody Marks goes, I think he actually complements Joe Mixon perfectly. I do think there's a legitimate role for Woody Marks in that offense. That is exactly what the Texans have been missing, that sort of skill set from a Woody Marks. For Dylan Sampson, there'll be plenty of opportunities for him to kind of make a name for himself in Cleveland, and that won't impact Quinshon Judkins. Judkins' role is not going to be hindered because of Dylan Sampson, but Sampson will have plenty of opportunities to show his worth. We've got 2 tight ends here in Terrence Ferguson and Mason Taylor. Look, I like Terrence Ferguson a lot. He tested out of the gym. We know that Sean McVay has been looking for a big athletic tight end. I'm willing to take that shot on Terrence Ferguson. For Mason Taylor, he goes to the Jets. Maybe this is short-sighted for me, but I just really struggle to see how Justin Fields supports one weapon in Garrett Wilson, but beyond that, another weapon here in Mason Taylor. I could be short-sighted. Let me know in the comment section, but I struggle to see it. And then we got 2 quarterbacks here to end the tier 6B. And Jalen Milroe and Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck was actually drafted higher than Jalen Milroe, but the reality is I'm only taking a quarterback outside of round 1 if they have serious rushing upside. I've been saying that all offseason long. The hit rate for a round 2 quarterback is 12.5%, okay? And the only quarterback that has hit in the past 11 years is Jalen Hurts. I don't see Tyler Shuck with that same rushing upside. Here's what I will say, though, is he probably has an opportunity to start in that offense very quickly. So if you want to take that shot in a Superflex league, I have no problems with you taking a shot on a Shuck or a Milroe, okay? All right, let's get into tier 8, and I'm going to have a conversation, okay? Let's talk about SHEDEUR Sanders. A lot of you have probably been waiting, hey, we should talk about SHEDEUR Sanders. Well, let's get to it. I'm going to try to remain unemotional and unbiased after our stream last night, okay? Because things got a little emotional. SHEDEUR Sanders should not sniff the second round. The team that drafted him thought he was 2 rounds worse than Dylan Gabriel. What are we doing? Maybe not. Okay, and all I want to do is take you through a pros list and a cons list. Are you ready for this? Okay, so this is unbiased, this is unemotional. This is just where I stand right now. As someone who really liked SHEDEUR Sanders before the draft, well, I liked him enough as like a late first, early second round talent. Okay, you ready? Here we go. The pros for SHEDEUR Sanders. I felt that he was a talented player. Not a lock for the first round, but again, late first, early second, okay? That's a pro. Pro number 2, he has a good support system around him with Deion Sanders and company, okay? Pro number 3, he's on a team that has no clear answer at quarterback right now. Those are the main pros I can really think of, okay? Let me know if I'm missing one. Let's talk about the cons though, because the cons are vast. Number 1, for dynasty purposes, SHEDEUR Sanders would have to be the outlier of all outliers in order to hit for fantasy football. And that's what you're asking here, right? We don't know the politics of everything. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. but you have to recognize he would have to be the outlier of all outliers here. The hit rate on a round 5 quarterback is 0%. In the last 11 years, we have never seen a quarterback hit in round 5. Now, sure, you can make the case, well, you think he's a round 1 talent. If you think he's a round 1 talent, are you really confident that 32 GMs who are fighting for their life each and every, day really to keep their job said, you know what, we're going to teach him a lesson so much to the point where I'll put my job on the line. I'm going to let him fall all the way to the 5th round. Clearly, most people didn't think he was a first round talent. That's just my opinion. Number 3, number 3, the team that drafted him took a quarterback 2 rounds earlier than when they drafted him. They took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, and then they took SHEDEUR Sanders 2 rounds later, and it didn't look like the staff was all that happy about it anyway if you saw their war room. Number 4, we have literally never seen a player in this situation before. Tons of unknowns means tons of risk, okay? Number 5, the Browns have 2 first-round picks in 2026, and the Jags might be a top 10 team again in the NFL draft next year. They should definitely be a top 5 team in this class as far as the Browns go. They should definitely be top 5. Number 6, there are 5 quarterbacks on the Cleveland Browns roster today. Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and SHEDEUR Sanders. So, of course, none of us know the in and outs of this situation. I can recognize that. But here are the unbiased facts. You just heard them, okay? With that being said, I'm not considering SHEDEUR Sanders in the 2nd round. But if you would like to, I can see how you would make that decision. I would much rather wait till like the last pick and take Dylan Gabriel as a flyer than spend a round 2 pick on a SHEDEUR Sanders. I asked our community over in the Discord, I said, how high would you draft SHEDEUR Sanders? And the vast majority of people said a mid to late 3rd round, which I can get down with. Some people said mid, some people late. On our mock draft last night, people were taking him in the mid 2nd round. I don't think I can get there, but I can respect it if you guys want to get there yourselves. All right, the rest of tier number 8. We've got a couple running backs here. I'm going to go through it quickly, okay? Trevor Etienne, who went 4th round to the Panthers. I don't see him as a serious threat to Chuba Hubbard, who just got that long-term deal. Jordan James, round 5 to the 49ers. A nice pick, man. If there are any injuries in that backfield, we know we want those 49er running backs on our taxi squad, right? Pat Bryant, who went round 3 to the Broncos. Let's be honest though, round 3 wide receiver hit rate is truly awful. It's 21.7%. So don't expect much from these round 3 receivers. Savion Williams to the Packers, Jalen Royals to the Chiefs in round 4. Let me tell you, round 4 has a hit rate of 4%. 4% hit rate for round 4 wide receivers. It's a tough bet to make. As much as I love Jalen Royals, I have to trust the NFL a little bit more than my own self, right? So I'll still take him as a dart throw, but my expectations have been lowered. Alec A. Manor, who went to the Titans. You can make the argument, hey, why can't Alec break out with Cam Ward there? Who else is the other wide receiver that's going to stop him? I don't mind it if you make that argument. DJ Giddens, probably one of the picks that may be the most sad. Loved him. He falls to round 5. Round 5 hit rate for a running back is truly awful. And he lands in a situation where there's just no upside. Like, it's Jonathan Taylor. What is he going to do? All right, a couple running backs here to finish with Brashard Smith with the Chiefs in round 7. Ollie Gordon with the Dolphins in round 6. Kyle Monangai with the Bears in round 7. I could see all 3 of those guys developing serious roles in their offenses, which is why I want to take a shot on them in my rookie drafts, preferably in the last round. All right, last thing I'll do here is tier 9. I'll just rattle off these names, all right? Actually, you can just look at them. I'm not going to go in depth because of time, but you can check out my rookie rankings on the Flock site. I appreciate y'all watching the video. Drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. By the way, our rookie report will be updated within the next 24 to 48 hours. If you want access to it, make sure you're a member over on the Flock site with the promo code LAND. You'll get our rankings, the historical hit rates, written up profiles for all these players, rankings for one quarterback, for Superflex. You'll get our Limits to Lemonade report, right? The RAS historical hit rates. You'll have everything you need to go out and dominate your rookie drafts. You will also get access to our tear down tool. If you haven't heard of our tear down tool, if you have the 101, 102, 103, 105, and you want to know what could I tear down from these picks and get in return, well, I'm going to help you with our rookie teardown tool, what packages you should expect in return, and you'll get that when you become a Land Annual Mother Flocker member. I appreciate y'all for watching the video. I'll see you very soon. Enjoy the rest of your night. Nothing but love. If you're thinking about supporting us in this economy, that's big love, and you deserve love in return. So for every yearly Mother Flocker member who uses the promo code LAND, we're giving out a free team playbook, our 2025 rookie report, access to all premium tools, free site vouchers, and of course, a huge thank you from the LAND crew. You're far too kind. That's love.